The clock is ticking down. It's September 30th, 2025, and the US government funding bill, a massive piece of legislation meant to keep the lights on and the agencies running, has hit a wall. The deadline for its passage is 12:01 a.m. on October 1st, 2025, and now the spectre of a serious government shutdown looms large. At the heart of the dispute is a bill that, on its face, aims to reduce the national debt and streamline government spending. But the devil, as always, is in the details. Democrats in the Senate are raising huge red flags, objecting to several key provisions in the bill. One of the most heated debates is over significant rollbacks to environmental regulations. Democrats see this as a direct attack on climate change initiatives and refuse to concede to powerful corporate interests that prioritize profit over planetary health. Another hot issue that Democrats oppose is the Republicans' proposal to overhaul essential social safety net programs, including cuts to food assistance and housing subsidies. Democrats argue these cuts are disproportionately harmful to vulnerable populations and would exacerbate poverty. Democrats decry the bill's tax cuts, which they contend overwhelmingly benefit the wealthiest Americans and large corporations, doing little to relieve the financial burdens of the middle and lower classes. The impact of this standoff, whether the bill passes or a shutdown occurs, will ripple through the lives of millions of Americans. If the bill passes, despite Democratic opposition, the immediate relief from a shutdown is averted. But the long-term consequences are dire for many US citizens of all backgrounds. For impoverished and poor citizens, the cuts to social safety nets could be devastating. Food banks would see high demands, and it may be difficult to provide food over time. Many families would struggle to afford basic necessities like rent and utilities. The promise of a more equitable society would go down the drain. Middle-class families would feel the financial pain as a domino effect from assisting their family and friends. The Republican proposed tax cuts are unlikely to trickle down to help the disadvantaged in any meaningful way. They might even see an increase in their tax burden if other revenue-generating measures are included to offset the corporate and wealthy tax breaks. Small businesses, the backbone of the American economy, would face a mixed bag of issues. Some might benefit from deregulation, finding it easier to operate without stringent environmental or labor protections. However, many small businesses rely on government contracts, grants, and loans, which could potentially be subject to more restrictive criteria. The uncertainty surrounding the near-future economic policy could cause confusion for business decisions, investments, and growth. Federal workers would likely experience a period of uncertainty, even if the bill passes. Restructuring and potential layoffs, even if not immediate, would cast a shadow over their careers. Students pursuing higher education would see the cost of their education potentially rise. The proposed changes to federal student loan programs could lead to higher interest rates and more stringent repayment terms, making college a less accessible dream for many. Now, imagine the alternative. The clock strikes 12:01 a.m. on October 1st, 2025. The government shuts down and the lights go out for many federal services. The impact is immediate and widespread. Impoverished and poor citizens would be hit the hardest. The disruption of food assistance programs would leave many families scrambling for their next meal. Housing assistance could be halted, pushing vulnerable individuals and families onto the streets. Access to healthcare services, particularly those funded by federal programs, would be severely curtailed. Middle-class families would also face significant disruptions. Federal employees, from TSA agents to park rangers, would be furloughed, leading to lost wages and financial strain. Essential services like national parks would close, impacting tourism and local economies. The uncertainty of when they'll be able to return to work would create immense stress. Small businesses would suffer immensely. Many rely on federal agencies for permits, licenses, and regulatory approvals, all of which would grind to a halt. Small business loans and grants would be frozen, making it impossible for many to meet payroll or invest in their operations. The ripple effect would be felt across supply chains and local communities. Federal workers, the direct casualties of a shutdown, would face immediate financial hardship. Furloughed employees would not receive their paychecks, forcing them to dip into savings, take out loans, or rely on community support. The stress and uncertainty of a shutdown can also have significant mental health consequences. Students going to college would also feel the sting. Federal student aid processing could be delayed, impacting their ability to register for classes or secure necessary funding. Research grants and scholarships administered by federal agencies might be put on hold, jeopardizing academic progress and opportunities. The passage of this bill, or the ensuing shutdown, represents more than just a budgetary debate. It's a stark illustration of competing visions for America's future. One side prioritizes fiscal conservatism and deregulation, often at the expense of social programs and environmental protection. The other champions a robust social safety net, environmental stewardship, and a more equitable distribution of wealth. As the deadline passes, the consequences of these choices will begin to unfold, leaving millions of Americans to navigate a landscape shaped by political brinkmanship and fundamentally different ideas about the role of government and the well-being of its citizens. The debate over the funding bill and the looming threat of a shutdown is a potent reminder that political decisions have real-world, often deeply personal, impacts.